So today is October 10th, and it's Friday, and it's a beautiful day here in Kansas, and I am getting back to work. And one of the things that's kept me very busy in the last little bit are these guys. I thought I would introduce everyone to the kittens today. So I'm actually sitting in the bedroom that was my dad's when he was living here. And I know nobody's here yet, but I'm just going to talk to myself, I suppose. Because I have time. Well, somebody showed up. Whoever you are, I'm talking to you now instead of myself. So I'm sitting in what was my dad's bedroom. And right now I have a mama cat and 3 kittens that just turned 8 weeks old today. And I thought it'd be fun to do the video in here because it's a little bit about my dad. Hi, Crystal. It's just me. Well, you are so very welcome to join me right now. Would you like to see a kitten? I had a little boy kitten in my lap and he ran away. And there's 2 girl kittens. So let me see if I can get them real quick. Come here, little girl. Come here, little girl kitten. Come here, other little girl kitten. Here are my girl kittens. They're 8 weeks old today. This one is, actually that is the little boy again. The little girl kitten and this boy kitten look so much the same, I get them mixed up. So he was in my hand a minute ago. This one has short hair, little stripy girl. She was born first. She actually was, she was the biggest one for a while, and now she's the smallest. She's the least interested in food. She looks most like her mama, which I don't know if I'll be able to get her in camera. The mama kitty is, or was, a feral cat. She's a polydactyl. She has extra toes. On one of her paws, she has 2 extra toes. Ah, this one's playing with my fingers right now. That's the little boy. I introduced them to the dogs today. I figured they were big enough to see what dogs were. The mama didn't like that very much. She's been in hiding ever since. All right, so let me get to the point of the video. I have been missing. I've been missing in action from producing videos. I took a break from work. I spent most of August taking care of my dad. He got pneumonia the first part of August, and he actually did so well with this pneumonia. He beat it. He really did. He got completely over the pneumonia. He had clear lungs. He was starting to sound better. You know, all of his pneumonia symptoms were gone, but it wore him out. It just wore him out. And I hadn't heard this phrase before, but I heard it while I was in the middle of all of this. And that phrase was that pneumonia is an old man's best friend. And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. Come here, I'm trying to show cute kitten things while I'm talking, and you guys are out of the camera shot. Well, I'll just put this on my lap and see if anybody shows up on shows up. Anyway, aw, thanks, Crystal. You know, a lot of people have contacted me. I had a lot of sweet messages about, you know, when Daddy was ill, and then when he was in his transition process, a lot of great messages. And then after he passed, so many beautiful condolence messages, and quite a collection of cards. I got just another one again yesterday, and it's so sweet. My cousin, actually, Jackie, if you happen to be ever watching this or watching it in the future, my cousin Jackie said, "Oh, I didn't send you a card. I'm so sorry." And I'm like, Jackie lost her parents, my uncle, Bob, my Aunt Sharon, within the last handful of years. And, um, while I reached out to her for sure, I didn't send cards. It's really weird how we don't really send cards these days, do we? We don't for a few reasons. We can connect like this so much better. Cards have gotten expensive. I mean, they really have. Have you looked at them? $4 or $5 for a piece of paper. So, I want to thank the people once again who did send cards, but I've had a lot of people reach out the last little bit. The hospice chaplain contacted me just a couple days ago. People asking me how I am, and I'm doing great. I really am doing great. This thing happened with both my mom and dad. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. Hi, really, Matt's one of my greatest supporters, long-lasting supporters, and I do appreciate you, Matt. Um, but as far as the grieving thing, I did this with my mother. It was so different than when I lost my brother. I lost my brother suddenly, unexpectedly. It was horrible. The trauma was horrible. I still have some trauma from that, I think, or at least the residual echoes of it. But when Mama died, it wasn't completely unexpected. And same with my father. And what I have found, and I don't know if everybody does this, you tell me if you all have had anybody who's been around who's either elderly or quite ill. I did a lot of pre-grieving, and I did probably, well, for sure, more for my father than my mother. While I took care of my mother, gosh, I started taking care of her in the year 2000. And we moved up here in 2010, and I was doing things regularly every day. From that day on, but even before then, I slept with her in the hospital when she had multiple operations, knee replacements, pacemaker surgery, and then sometimes when she just couldn't handle living at home anymore, mostly because of physical aspects of her severe arthritis and physical condition. Sometimes she'd just come live with me, mostly when we were in Texas, for months at a time, and then she'd go back. She kind of thought of it as breaks. So, I started taking care of her like that in the year 2000. And then from 2010 to 2016, here in Kansas, I went to every doctor's visit, or almost everyone. I think my mother went to the doctor as a form of social engagement. And I giggle about it a little bit right now, but the doctor and the doctor's wife, who was a nurse team, they were such fantastic people, and they were very open-minded. As a matter of fact, when this certain doctor and I were talking, and he found out what I did, and that was when Dolores was still alive, Dolores Cannon. He was like, "Well, bring me one of her books." And so that was the kind of doctor I had for a while. Pardon me, until he passed away. I did all those doctor things with Mom, and of course was around taking care of her. We did have some help, some really terrific help from people that I still stay in touch with, especially our sweet friend Taylor, who took care of Mom and Dad all the way up to the end. For Mom, and then Taylor was here just, maybe a week or so before Daddy died. Anyway, pre-grieving. I pre-grieved for Daddy for a couple reasons, because he lived here, COVID happened, and I went and picked him, scooped him right up, brought him here, and then took care of him. He had most of his mental faculties in 2020, except for some short-term memory loss that really was not significant. As a matter of fact, those of you who've been around for a while, I used to do Facebook Lives with Daddy, talking about stories and stuff until he couldn't. I remember the day that we did one, and he couldn't even follow along anymore. His brain just wasn't working like that. And so I stopped doing that because it just didn't seem right. But Daddy was here, and then I got more help with caregivers. But what happened with that was much of our home was given over to my father. And when I first moved him in here, and it was in this room, I don't know, there's not much in here right now. There's a cat cage and a dresser and this chair. When I first brought Dad, this room was my office. I had been doing, and there's still BQH. There's absolute my Get Ready BQH videos were done in this room. I had just gotten this room completely tricked out to be my office when COVID happened. I went and got Dad. I literally threw everything out of this office into a pile in the other room, drug up a mattress, figured out this room being Daddy's bedroom. And, early 2020, nobody knew what was going to happen. Daddy didn't want to leave his house, but I brought him here. It was absolutely the right thing, absolutely the best thing to do. In the next few months, even though his memory was slipping, Dad put on almost 20 pounds. His health improved for sure. Even though I had been delivering food, it really wasn't getting eaten. He was an independent man, but he needed more life around him. And so I brought him here, and all of that was good. But here's what happened. I lost a little bit of myself in all of that. I'm not regretful about it. My husband, my dear, sweet, amazing husband, put up with a lot. Every time I thought about what if it was his parent who was here, would I be so gracious like my husband was? I hope that I would have been, is all I can say there. I hope that I would have been, because my husband put up with a lot. But when I put Dad in this room, I set it up so that he could be in this room. And I put a television in here. He was still watching his Jeopardy and his Wheel of Fortune mostly, but he also had the news on, and we'd gotten out of television, that just the whole presence and energy of a television. And guess what? It didn't matter. We could stand on our head. We could not make the television work in this room. We had to put it in the other room with the little antenna signal thing. And so what that ended up meaning was our main living area was the TV room. Right now that room has the television in it, but it's in a cabinet and those doors stay shut. I don't even like looking. And, of course, they're monitors these days, so it's not the same thing. But I don't even like looking at it, right? The whole television thing, I think, you tell me if you agree with me, it's the brainwashing and the input of the questionable, shall we say, energy and information that lands on mainstream news, which, my parents were in their 80s and then 90s. That's what they knew, and that's how they knew how to interface with the television. Some of that was happening in the house. And so what happened is my husband and I just sort of disconnected from that, right? And then as Daddy's hearing started to leave and the volume of the TV went up, we really disconnected. And then we had these speakers installed. They're really cool. In case y'all haven't ever heard of them, we clicked a box into the television, and then there were these chair speakers. They actually like this flexible arm hung over his chair, and the speakers were right by his ear. Well, let's just say by the time he passed, he had that on full volume, and it was just like having the TV on anyway. So that worked for a little while. And then he would sit at the table and eat, and the caregivers would be in the kitchen to cook him things, and then they'd sit in the dining room table. And so what ended up happening was my husband and I just sort of, to have time to ourselves or quiet time or whatever, we just sort of weren't always in those spaces, right? And it's not like Dad was a big talker. It's not even like he asked for very much. But his presence was huge in this house. Again, I wouldn't have changed a thing. but it changed everything. It changed everything about my life and my life with my husband. And uh, even my work life, because I had to revolve everything except for the last 2, 3 weeks-ish of Daddy's life. Even when I had caregivers during the day, I did not have them at night. I worked at night, just like a mother of an infant, right? I did that for 5.5 years. For 5.5 years, I either got up, paid attention, listened, watched Ring cameras, or those sorts of things to take care of Daddy overnight. He didn't need as much care in the earlier years as the latter years. But that didn't mean it didn't affect me. I had the kind of sleep that only young mothers and caregivers know and experience, which is constantly interrupted. And even now, when I wake up in the middle of the night and Daddy's been gone for, um, a month and 10 days now, I'm still running on a program of, listening to him, and I have to remind myself I don't have to do that anymore. And even yesterday when I was picking out some groceries, I found myself looking for the items that my father would want or appreciate or eat. And so these daily things of mine, I'm having to rewire my brain. So I'm rewiring everything actually about myself. I went to something called a Norwex party. Do y'all know what a Norwex party is? I didn't know what a Norwex party was until a couple weeks ago. My beautiful friend Ann said, do you want to come to a Norwex party? It was on a Sunday. I was like, what even is that? And it's a I guess Swedish company, I guess. They sell cleaning products and care products. Crystal doesn't know either. Yeah, I don't know anything like that. Actually, the idea is pretty reasonable. They and I bought a couple of things. So it's one of those parties where you purchase things, I don't even know what they call at-home party marketing. I don't know. I bought a eyeglass cleaner that clips to my purse, and I bought a tiny cutting board because it was made out of compressed rice hulls, which I just love because right now with cutting boards, okay, plastic, the wood, well, the steel messes up your knives. There's kind of, what do you use for a cutting board these days? Microplastics are a problem. I mean, a big problem if you haven't been paying attention. So I'm trying not to use a plastic cutting board, and I got this little compressed rice cutting board. Anyway, why am I talking about that? Anne asked me if I wanted to come to this party, and it was on a Sunday afternoon. I always want to see my friend Anne. She's one of the few people who live here in Wichita who I've known for a really long time, and I count as a really good friend. And I absolutely wanted to come. But you know why I wanted to come even more? I didn't have to ask anybody. I didn't have to make sure I had anybody taking care of Dad. I could just go. I could just go without asking permission. That's kind of all new for me right now. You know? And whenever I took clients, I had to figure out what's going on. Was Dad doing well? Uh, did I have care? What time would I be done? When would I be able to, end the session? Running my live, BQH immersion classes for 5 years. I had to, ever since even running the first one, I had to leave right when the class was over to get back home to relieve the caregivers. And I knew this last spring, and I knew that even during this last spring live immersion class, I didn't know if Daddy was going to make it to Christmas. I didn't know. He's 94 and he kept talking about, hi, Diane. Nice to see you. I didn't know if he was going to make it to Christmas. I didn't know. I knew we were going to have family for Christmas, so I'd hoped that he would. He kept saying he was going to live to be 100, and I think he lived to almost 95 because he said he was going to live to be 100. And we had a class scheduled for October. I mean, for right about now, I think we had one, and I went, you know what? We need to cancel that right now because I just knew it was going to be iffy. And I'm really glad I canceled it. For more than one reason, I'm glad I canceled it because even though in August when it looked 50-50 whether or not Dad was going to recover, I knew he was going to leave. He was going to need more care. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't plug all of these things in. We're still a working farm here. We've got acreage and animals and things that grow that I like to keep going, including our main working farm crop, which is hay, which is mostly just for my own horses. But we're still an honest to goodness farm here. And much of that is my responsibility. And almost all of the animals are my responsibility. I can count on my husband in a pinch for sure. And he mostly takes care of the bees. But I'm in charge of the chickens 100%. I'm in charge of the cats and the dogs and certainly the horses. My husband will cover for me when I can't get to some places, but I usually have to remind him or set things up. And all of that is a big job. And having these kittens here is a big job too. And I thought these kittens might be crawling all over me for this video. And they're not at all, are they? I might go find one over here. Let's see. This is a little stripy kitten. Look at this. How cute is this? You're on camera, little girl. My son-in-law is coming this weekend to spend some time with these kittens to see if he might want to invite one to eventually, in a few weeks, go home with them to Tennessee, where our daughter lives now for a little while. And so that's very exciting. And then I'm going to have 2 other kittens that may already have homes, but it's quite a deal taking care of them, mostly because the mama was feral and I've had to kind of acclimate her. But here's the really interesting part about that. Even though I'm in Daddy's room right now, this wall right here goes to my tiny little, and I mean tiny, it's less than 8 foot by 8 foot is where I have my office now. So I was trying to do work in there, and for a while, that cat cage, it's a rolling cat cage, which has been in many places and taking care of many different cat scenarios, and it actually comes apart. That can be 3 cages. It works out really well. I first tried to keep the feral cat outside when we found out she was pregnant. And that didn't work for a few reasons, mostly because of she was meowing a lot. That number one. Even though she was feral, she got attached to me, or comfortable with me is probably a better word, right off. And she wanted out. She wanted company. She didn't know what was going on. So there was a lot of that. And then we still had, if any of you had seen my Facebook Live, we had a lot of live snakes and still do around the property and underneath our deck and around our foundation. We have plenty of mice because we are a farm. We do have grain around and feed the birds and have chicken food and horse food and all that stuff. So it's always a battle with the mice. So the snakes are around because the mice feed the snakes. But I knew when those kittens were born that they were going to be at risk. Because why? How did I know exactly? I actually put baby chicks in one of those slots a few seasons back. And I woke up in the morning, I'm sure I posted this to Facebook at some point, with the snake inside the cage and 4 of the chicks in a corner, terrified because that snake had already eaten 2 of their sisters. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I didn't hurt the snake. I know a lot of people hate snakes and immediately kill them. But it was a rat snake. These snakes were mostly eating the mice, and snakes just doing what snakes do. And we relocated that snake, but we still have plenty of snakes around here. So I couldn't emotionally handle the idea that the snake, any snake that same size, could get into that cage and eat a baby kitten. A chick is one thing. A baby kitten, I might not recover from. Matt says, I was a primary caregiver for 2 small children for several years. Yeah. Yeah. So, I didn't even know I wanted kids. I didn't know I wanted kids. We were married, Tom and I were married 7 years, and I was like, nah, maybe I do, maybe I don't, until my brother was killed. My brother was killed, and I just went, oh, well, of course I want kids. And I actually was pregnant the next month. My brother died in April, and I got pregnant in May, and I'm like, absolutely, I want kids. My perspective changed immediately. I'm gonna go back to the chair. Oof, that floor is just a little hard on these 64-year-old bones. Yeah, anyway. So had kids, and then it was right when they went to college that we came up here, They were both in college, and we came up here, and I started taking care of my mom. So I've been a caregiver for so long. And it's really interesting looking back on my latter portion of my 20s, my mid to latter 20s, when I was in the throes of pondering children or not, because I never was a babysitter. I've never, and still now, am not the kind of woman who sees a baby and wants to hold it. I mean, somebody else's baby. I adored holding my own babies, but I wasn't the, oh my gosh, look at that baby, let me hold it. Kitten baby, horse baby, dog baby, puppy. I was more of that person. I was not a natural babysitter for humans, not a natural caregiver for humans. And then after working with Dolores, of course, that connection with humans, and then doing my Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep volunteer work with the babies who are born still, and doing the photographing. I was around those families more than I was around babies who were actually crawling and breathing. It's a pretty fascinating thing, and I hate to say it, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole why, but let's just say we are busier than ever with Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, which is, providing heirloom and remembrance professional photography for babies who are born still, or who pass shortly after being born in the hospital. And we just got back from Tennessee, and when we were in Tennessee, there were multiple calls here in Wichita, and I still have sessions to edit on my computer, and we're staying really, really busy. And if you all, I'll just leave this here and then switch off to another subject. But if you all aren't quite aware of the mortality rate, not just in America, it's worth noting and pondering those ideas, especially if you have children and grandchildren in the world, because they're going to have to navigate a different kind of world than the kind of world I grew up in. It's going to be a different world for sure. And so let me circle back. Oh, I'm not sure I like that. Let me go on back to the idea of coming back to myself. I'm rewiring myself. I'm stepping back into editing some videos, doing some sessions. Oh, I must have Didn't hear it. Quite aware of. Yeah, Crystal is noticing. This isn't the greatest room for reception. If you've been around for a while and or even listening or earlier on in the video, I said I couldn't get TV in here. So there's a little of that. I mean, we do still live out in the country. The thing is, though, we just hooked up to Starlink. So I know there's still routers and stuff like that. And we really count on cameras to, well, I like knowing when there's coyotes by the chicken coop. And I like knowing if a raccoon or a skunk is wandering around the horse paddock. And I check these things to keep everyone safe. Mostly I'm talking about horses and outdoor animals kinds of things. But we keep the Wi-Fi going for that um, streaming, and I wish I could turn it off. I really do. I think that we are, and talking about societally, I think we are compromising our health by being in the Wi-Fi signal 24/7. I know that I can feel that when I leave the city. So even though we have it here, I can feel the intensity and the sort of the overwhelming bandwidth of all of that when I'm even in the town of Wichita, which is about 500,000. It's not a small town, but I don't think it's good. And I try to leave my phone if I can get out into the woods, and more of that is happening now. I used to be able to do that a little bit. I get out on my horse. My donkey is now thin enough. Mr. Elvis is our oldest critter here on the farm. He is 25. If he makes it to January, which of course he will, unless something comes up that's a big surprise, he'll be 26. And he's the oldest animal on the farm. And because of his current Cushing's and a little insulin resistance, he's not really been able to graze for a couple of years, and not even weeds, not many weeds. And it's sad. And he wishes he could get back out on that green stuff. But he is in great shape. And I haven't had him pull a donkey cart in years. There's so many things that I haven't done in years because of Daddy. And that's one of them. I haven't hooked the donkey cart up to Elvis. And I am, I'm going to start that again too. His halter, I don't know how it is that I only had one, but it's true. I had one red donkey halter for Elvis, and it just fell apart. I mean, literally kind of disintegrated a couple months ago or a month or so ago. And when I hang up here, I'm going to go measure his, get his exact measurements and get a new halter. And I'm going to start doing more things with animals. Fall is my favorite time of year. And I'm so excited to say our family, our daughter, her husband, and 3 of my grandchildren will be coming for Thanksgiving. And I'm already so excited for that. And then Christmas time, we'll have them back along with our son and his family. And then the year after that, Lauren and her family, the naval officer, they probably will go back to Japan. And I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss, I'm a grandmama who's completely separated from her grandchildren on a daily basis, but I have a nice busy fall to think about with everyone coming back. But I am coming back to work, and I am starting to plug back in to all of these things. And I'm going to talk about a video that is on my computer that I want to work on, maybe even this afternoon. And I'm going to end this. Gosh, I've been chatting for 35 minutes now. I'm going to end with talking about this video that I have that I'm going to upload to the channel. And it is concerning an online session that I had earlier this year. And it was with a woman who I'd had 3 or even, this might have even been the 4th session with her. Never met her in real life. We've only had sessions online. And we got disconnected on this online session. First of all, it doesn't happen that often. Second of all, when it happens, it's always positive, or has been in my experience. And in every story I know, actually, it's been positive, and or you can find the silver lining in it. There's, I know truly of no experience where it was traumatic or where people wish they wouldn't have done it because they got disconnected. Um, Kenneth, I was sort of hoping you might show up, but I've been yakking for 35 minutes and I'm getting ready to sign off. But you popped in on a good time because I'm talking about doing this online session that I had done, and I think it was in May. And I was doing this online session with this lovely lady, and her name is Rupa. And Rupa was in California, and she's given me permission to share the story and the video. And the video is primarily what happened after we reconnected. Because, so let me go back. I've been disconnected with online clients not many times. Look, I've been doing online sessions. I started experimenting back in 2017, maybe even late 2016. I started experimenting online sessions, didn't even tell anybody for a while, and then figured out how to make it safe, how to make everyone comfortable, because of course we were all so programmed. No, you don't do sessions online. And I just knew I was following my intuition. I was following guidance, I believe, from Dolores, from the other side, that it was time, we were ready, and we were able to help more people that way. A lot of people cannot get to a physical session. They just can't. They just can't. They can't physically, they can't afford it, they can't travel, they can't put the time in. There's a lot of that they can't. The second thing is performance anxiety. A lot of people show up in somebody else's home or office, and there they are. They may have flown in, right? So, it's now or never kind of thing. With an online session, meh, something comes up, somebody gets weather, whatever, reschedule. There's a lot of nice things about that. Here's another one. People are in their own homes, on their own sofas, in their own beds, or quiet places. Some people have to rent a room or ship the family out or something like that to have some quiet so that they can do this. But they're often in a place that they're already comfortable or that they can make comfortable. So I was doing this session with Rupa, and Kenneth says he felt me. I believe that, Kenny. I do believe that. I believe you and I are connected. And I believe most of us quantum healers are connected. But we were doing a session. Okay, wait. I was emphasizing the how many times I'd had sessions and how many times they'd been disconnected. So a handful, maybe 5, maybe. Either absolutely inconsequential, like we were disconnected, like during the interview, or right at the beginning, or towards the end. I mean, just inconsequential, or it was, it shifted something. Sometimes people had to move. Sometimes people had to take care of something at the door, or solve a problem, or move a pet, or bring a pet. Hi, Jules. Nice to see you. And other times it has been profoundly beneficial. And this session with Rupa that I had in May was one of the most profoundly healing online sessions I've ever done. But get this. I press record after the induction, okay? I was maybe, I don't even know. It's been since May, so I'm going to guess. But let's say a handful of minutes. A handful of minutes of her just setting up what she was starting to see, starting to experience. She was just stepping into her experience when we got disconnected. I mean, it was just starting. So it didn't rattle me because these things don't rattle me anymore. I truly believe the higher self is there in all situations, and most of the time we can figure out what's going on, what's being orchestrated, and why we need to be curious and not upset about when things happen. So I'm curious. I'm not worried. I know that we've done sessions before. She knows to reconnect. We talk about how, we do that all the time. I waited. The longest I had ever waited for somebody to reconnect before Rupa was maybe almost 12, 15 minutes, something like this. Well, Rupa blew that out of the water. It was more than half an hour, I believe. And at one point, I took the laptop with me. I was at my father's home doing this online session. And I took the laptop from where I was comfortable doing the session into the kitchen in that home. And I started, thawing out or prepping lunch and making myself a cup of coffee and just keeping the computer right there, waiting for her, ready to restart the session, wondering what was going on. And she finally clicked back in. And the look on her face, And for a while, and this is all recorded, and I'm going to have this in the video. For a while, she just talked on and on and on about what happened in the session. And I'm like, and she was so amazed and she was so blown away. And I basically had to say I wasn't there. And she and I talked, and I'm going to go over this with the video, but she said, I realized you weren't saying anything, but I wasn't concerned about it. And she wasn't concerned for a couple of reasons. One was something that had happened that morning, something that I had said to her. And the other thing simply is that we had a connection, that she trusted me, in part because we'd done sessions before, of course, but because she knew that I wasn't interjecting, so she felt empowered. And magical things happened. So I'm going to bring you that story, okay? And yes, so Kenneth says a couple of things. Phenomenal online BQH session last week. She hadn't experienced anything like that. Absolutely magical, for sure. And definitely every glitch or mishap is definitely a necessary adjustment and realignment. It's true. And if you can stop judging them so much and just be curious about them, be neutral and curious, you'd be surprised where it can take you. Okay, I can't believe I've been chatting this long. Coming up on 44 minutes. Those of you who've been listening, thank you. Those of you who are checking in later, thank you. I'm coming back. I think we are rescheduling the next immersion course probably in early summer, like when school lets out in 2026. And friends and assistants, Donna and Diana, are doing something very special and fun with BQH. We are calling BQH Expansion, and they're doing that in Colorado. And stay tuned for that, because you might be interested in that. More to come. I'm actually hoping I might be able to attend this special version of BQH Expansion for practitioners with Donna McMurtry and Diana Adair in Colorado. Okay. Diane and Crystal and Kenny, thank you. Crystal hasn't tried doing a session yet. Well, I don't know why, Crystal. There's a lot of people out there who are willing to give you a session, and many who are absolutely willing to do so for little to no money because they want practice.
So, just put it out there on your social media or whatever, and people will come and talk to you about giving you a session. It's not hard to figure out how to get one, for sure. All right. Oh, Crystal says her husband may not. I don't know. I'm not going to say that out loud. She says something about her husband there. She has something to figure out, I think, before she can get a session. Look at that. Maybe that right there. Kenny and Crystal might get together. How fantastic is that? All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to me yabber on. Anyway, I'm coming back to myself. I'm finding myself. And more to come. I'm going to jazz up and reinvigorate all the things, the classes, the videos, the things that have been put on hold. Okay. And I'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now. Thank you. Love you. Love you all. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate Jules, you too, the connection and spending a little time here with me. Bye for now.